Oh, my desk is such a mess. Also, I'm kind of mad about that glare, but I just like the way this angle looks. Maybe I'll switch the light there next time. Anyways. Oh well. So unless you've been living under a rock or you just generally don't care, but one of the most challenging cameras to get your hands on because of popularity, the demand for it is so high, supply can't keep up, is the FujiFilm X100VI. Now I have my own. It took forever to get this. I mean, I had to do some negotiating because I wasn't going to pay more over or $1,000 more than what it's retailed. I did get it for $1,800. I mean, that's $300 more than what it's retailed. This thing is retailed for $1,500, $1,600, I believe, because you want to do all the taxes and round it up and all that stuff. But this camera was so challenging. I mean, this camera came out in 2024. It is 2026, and it's still hard to get. I got this in the beginning of 2025, a year later, and again, it took forever and a lot of negotiations to get this camera. I will admit, this camera is very, very fun. I love it. I love the film recipes I have built in here ready for me. It's a very unique, like, rangefinder, everyday camera I love. But I do believe, and I fall into that category where I do believe this camera has been overhyped. It's too popular that I feel like some people buy it and they don't like it, and they try to resell it for $1,000 more than it's worth. So I do fall in that category, but I'm not saying it's a bad camera. It's still a great camera, but I don't think it's worth, well, almost double for its retail price. And so now you're probably asking yourself, well, get to the point. What's the good solution? Because it sounds like you have a solution. Well, that is the FujiFilm X-E5. So I think if you're trying to look for a substitute for the X100VI because you can't get your hands on it or you don't want to pay that stupid price, the X-E5 does fall into this really good substitution category. And then I'm going to kind of dive into the reasons why, because there's a few things that they share the same, but there's a few things that make it a little bit better. So having both cameras, I really kind of dived into what both have the kind of same similarities, but also with one offers versus the other. Particularly, I want to talk about more of the X-E5 than the X100VI because you can look up any videos and they'll tell you what this has. But I think this whole concept of this video is to like, hey, this is a good substitute because if you do just the body, I believe, and I'm going to put the right price on here, but I believe it's like $1,100 with the kit, and I'll go over that kit version in a second, is about $1,600, or yes, I believe so. And sometimes they have deals where like they're doing like 10% off, so it can be worth $1,300, $1,400. So I really want to focus on X-E5. The X100VI is going to kind of be off to the side, but I'm going to kind of like compare and contrast and kind of go over why I think the X-E5 is probably the best substitute. Honorable mention, the XM5, and I'll kind of tell you why the XM5 is not the direction I would go for. It is a very smaller version of the X-E5. It is interchangeable, just like the X-E5, but it kind of is going to roll into the first reason is that the XM5 doesn't have a viewfinder. The X-E5 does have a viewfinder, just like the X100VI. The viewfinder is electric viewfinder. It is not an optical. I know the X100VI, you can switch between electric versus optical. Again, this is all electric viewfinder, but it's still just as good. They also have a feature where you can make it look like a very retro old film camera, which I really love because it has the exposure level, and then it has your like shutter speed, your aperture, as well as your ISO. So I think that's really cool, really neat. So, you know, if you are someone who said, hey, I really like taking photos with the viewfinder, again, the X-E5 falls into that category. So another reason why the X-E5 is such a good substitution, I mean, it's kind of common sense, but this also has the exact same film simulations that the X100VI has, so you're not missing out. There's nothing gonna make you feel like, oh, I really have buyer's remorse because I got the wrong camera. It's all the same. There's not a big difference. Now, when we come talk about the setup, they're practically the same. You have your shutter speed, you have your exposure compensation dial, you have it now a little designated thing for you can set up to be your ISO. Just like the X100VI, you have a shutter speed, you have your exposure compensation, shutter button, you have a back button. All the buttons are exactly the same. There's not really a major difference, maybe just a button layout, and that's just about it. So obviously I have the 23mm f2.8 on here, and this is a 23mm f2. Now, they're practically the same focal length. I do sometimes feel like this one's a little bit wider compared to this, and I just think it's because, you know, you have a fixed lens versus an interchangeable, so the distance from the sensor might be a little bit different because this is a little bit more built-in. There's a little bit of room because you obviously have to change your lenses. But they're both the same. So if you're looking for something that's very pocket friendly, this 23mm is ideal. They do have a kit version of this where they have this 23mm. And actually, when I bought this 23mm wasn't out yet unless you bought the kit. And actually, if you're into street photography or you want something small and pocketable, this 23mm plus the camera body size, I mean, the X100VI is a little bit wider. This has been super ideal. I literally can slip it into like a little side bag and be pretty fun with it. So I think if you're worried about that fancy 23mm X100VI has to offer, you can also get it on here. You can also get a smaller version of this. They're 35. This is a 35 f2. So yeah, you're kind of good. And that also leads into the conversation about interchangeable lenses. This here, you can. And if you want to like zoom in a little before you take your shot, you lose resolution on the sensor because you're cropping down on the sensor. Here, you can switch from a 23, 35, a 50, even what's there, 16 to 55, I think that just came out not too long ago. You can switch into that. In the conversation, you can have an expensive range of focal lengths with carrying a bunch of lenses without, you know, compromising your resolution. So that's pretty dang amazing. Now, to go over things that make it a little bit different, I already kind of went over one of them. It is that it is an interchangeable lens. So you're not risking resolution. You can have a variety of interchangeable lenses if you want. I know a lot of photographers who said like they can't do the fixed lens kind of style because they're so used to switching, you know, getting creative with their lens and focal length. So you have that. That's a really good plus in my personal opinion. And also it is a crop sensor. So like your 23 is kind of like a 35, but maybe I think it's a 31mm, and then your 35 is like a 50 and stuff. So you do that conversion and you kind of get the point. The other reason is what I liked about this camera versus the X100VI in terms of like how it makes the X-E5 unique is that there is a designated film recipe dial that you can customize. So it's FS1, FS2, and FS3. These have my top 3 favorite film recipes embedded in them. So all I have to do is just push this back dial and it switches to that exact recipe, and it's super easy. On here, I have to push this button and then scroll down, or I go into the, you know, my user settings, the Q button, and like rotate through the customs, which isn't like a bad thing. But when I'm photographing and then I say, hey, wait, I really like this shot in black and white, I can easily just move my thumb and just rotate it, especially if I know and like have muscle memory of which direction to rotate, which is really neat. I think it's really creative that they did that. And I think that's what they did, just because they didn't want to make a copy of the X100VI. They said, hey, let's make a unique version of that. And they added that little funky feature on there. Now, one of the other things is autofocusing. I feel in comparison, the X100VI is a little bit slow. So obviously you can't do like fast moving objects or people or whatever with this because it is very slow. I do feel like the X-E5, especially because of the fact that you can have different different lenses, that the autofocusing is much faster and a little bit more reliable. I've noticed when I'm photographing people with this, the face recognition does not fall off as comparison to the X100VI. Sometimes I don't even use the facial recognition on this because it falls off. So I just do a single point, make sure it locks on the person, take the photo. But this actually does a pretty good job, and I've never had any issues. I've done a few photos just like with this, like family photos as well as engagement photos, and it doesn't fall off and it locks on and it stays locked on because, again, this fixed body, the autofocusing system is built into the camera body. The autofocusing system is built into the lens. So that's it. Now, again, I'm not trying to say the X100VI is outdated or it's horrible. It's such a hard camera to get. It comes to the point where like you don't even want it. And I've actually seen a lot of people talk about that they've realized that there are better options. There are even much cheaper options and older options, like, you know, older cameras like the X100F or even the the GFX 50R, which is I think a 5-year-old camera, maybe older. I'm gonna put the correct date on there. And, you know, so people are just finding another way around it. But if you want something that's a little bit more updated, a little bit more, you know, has the X106 features and maybe a little bit mix of the XM5s or sometimes even their T30s or other cameras, I think the XE5 is a really good option. And I would recommend buying this over the X106 all the time. Because again, it is like 1600 if you do the kit lens, plus it's also smaller, it's pocketable, it's easy to take with you everywhere you go, and it's literally, it's the X106's little brother, or I would say maybe twin brother, but just one shorter than the other. The best way I can just say it is that it's the same. It does the same thing, and I've taken photos off of this so many times, and the quality is still there. There's not really a difference in the image quality in general. It's just that they're the same. That's the point, you know. So if you're looking to get a good substitute, this is it. I would recommend this 100%. I do love my X106. I think it's a fun camera. I'm grateful to be able to get one. I just think it's overrated right now, and it sucks that like those who really love this style camera can't get it. But like I said, there are better options, or not better options, but there are different directions you can go with, and I would say this one is. If you have any comments or questions about this camera in general, like I said, I've had this for almost 4 months. I've been playing around with it for a very long time, taking it everywhere I can go with me. I would gladly answer any questions as best as I could. But anyways, hope you enjoyed this video. Like and subscribe. I need to take care of that reflection because it's been bothering me the entire time. I keep looking at it because I'm like, what is that? Anyways, catch y'all later.